Hi guys, Crystal here from Whistleblower Media, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about how I came to do what it is that I'm currently doing. I still am a real estate broker owner, licensed in several states, and I witnessed a lot of injustices to real estate consumers. And even as a broker owner, there was absolutely nothing I could do. So that kind of started it, and that went on for like 8 or 9 years before I finally decided to quit the Association of Realtors and stand up against that. My site on that is, well, I have realtorsucks.com and I have realestateindustrywhistleblower.com. And basically, from there, I started writing on, from the real estate whistleblowing stuff, I became connected to a bankruptcy in Bend, Oregon, the Summit 1031 bankruptcy. And I'm writing on that. I haven't talked about a lot about the 1031 exchange industry. That is a horrible industry in itself. The IRS it's just ridiculous. But basically through that, I got an inside seat to how corrupt the U.S. bankruptcy courts are and how nobody's watching. Even the FBI said in some of the interviews, well, we don't really know bankruptcy laws. We're just looking for somebody to indict, right? So they're looking for a bad guy, but they're not looking at the attorneys, right? The bankruptcy attorneys. The trustees are corrupt. The bankruptcy attorneys are taking tons and tons of money. Nobody's regulating the money they're taking. That money belongs to my real estate consumers, right? So that's what I was in that fight for, because that's where the money went. And it wasn't really so much about, okay, yes, Summit did bad, but I wasn't writing so much on that in the beginning, and the reason I wasn't is because the money was gone from Summit's hands, and it was in the bankruptcy courts. The bankruptcy courts, government agencies, so this is government fraud, right? You expose the corruption in bankruptcy courts, and there's tons of it. You should be entitled to, what is it called, I think it's QUI, Qui-Tom or something laws. It's whistleblower laws. You get like 30% recovery when you sue for stuff like that. So you should easily be able to sue, like in the Summit one, Kevin Patrick of Obsidian Finance. I have obsidianfinancesucks.com on that story. This guy took like $2.5 million, I think, the first couple months. And this is the real estate consumer's money. He turned down deals on properties that was assets of the Summit principals. This money should have went directly to the real estate consumers. This guy he just does what he wants with all the money. All right, nobody regulates him, right? The judge does nothing. The Department of Justice trustees do nothing. And in watching that, and now that I've gotten tons of information from people over the last 2 years, it doesn't matter if the bankruptcy is $30,000 or such as the Petters scandal. I've written a lot on that at bankruptcycorruption.com. That was like $5 billion, right? It's the same principle. And some of these Department of Justice trustees, they even get like a commission on some of the recovery and some of the different things that happen. Well, not necessarily recovering it for the consumers, right? And the consumers are violated, right? So what they want to do is they want to indict, you know, the original people. Make sure this is still recording. And so they're totally focused on that, and they're like, why aren't, you know, like in the beginning they're like, well, why aren't you just, you know, hating Summit for doing this? Okay, well, they don't got the money anymore, okay? The money's with the trustee who is corrupt on every level, who controls the Bend DA, in my opinion, controls the judge, in my opinion. He stole it, right? Someone else was running the show. He comes in and he's like, oh my gosh, there's so much money to be had here. Just takes over the show, right? Now the judge appointed him. The judge took away the original attorney on it and appointed him. Okay? Now, one whistleblower, which is on my sites about that, Stephanie DeYoung, she happened to be the daughter of one of the principals. And we'll talk a lot about that later. But the thing is her story was incredible. It's regardless of what you think of what Summit did, or wah, or that she's whining or protecting her dad, or whatever you think, it is an amazing way that she showed the absolute corruption in bankruptcy courts. She had video transcripts from the courts of where the judge appointed Kevin Patrick. Fraud on top of fraud on top of fraud. Now this money that should have went to the real estate consumers, it was all tied up. Yes, it's Summit's fault, let's hate Summit. Okay, Let's look at the left hand. Meanwhile, Kevin Patrick's over here on the right hand, and he's running off with all the money, right? And he's making all these secret deals, in my opinion, on solar tax credits, on setting up all this stuff in Oregon to get himself more and more and more money. And it's not the first time. When you look at some of the stuff on obsidianfinancesucks.com, some of the earlier stuff I wrote, you can see there was timber companies, all kinds of other different companies that he worked with in going in bankruptcies, and he ended up with the assets. He sells the assets, in my opinion, to his cronies and, you know, people that he knows he is a really big deal in Oregon and kind of unstoppable, right? And when you try to complain to the FBI or the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice is in on it, right? In my opinion, Kevin Patrick paid off the Department of Justice, paid off Perkins Coie and Sussman Shank and all of these people to do with this, just so that he could come in and take all of this money and all of these connections, and, you know, meanwhile, just still going for the indictment for the Summit Principals, right? And in which some of that, I think some of them are going to prison. And on top of that, to just keep attacking this whistleblower, right? This Stephanie DeYoung. Attacker, attacker, attacker. He went after her for these videos that she did because she videotaped a public meeting, right? So she wants you, the real estate consumer, to have all the information. So she videotapes all the information. Well, talk about hell. They put her through hell, and some of it you know if you follow the story. But to this day, Kevin Patrick has never, ever let up on her. You know, Tonkentorp, which is Kevin Patrick's attorney, so it's the attorney's attorney, is supposed to be some bigwig intellectual property attorney, right? Never sent me a cease and desist, never asked me what my intention, never emailed me and said, hey, what did you mean about this post? Or when Stephanie was, you know, going through what she was going through, like I said, if you follow some of my blogs, I talked about $100 million secret. Those assholes never asked me one time what I meant by the $100 million secret. Nope. They assumed what it is, they attacked her. When I started writing about Summit, they attacked her. They deposed her in video. That's discriminating, and she should sue them 100%. They didn't depose any of the Summit principals, right? Now those guys are facing prison time. They're getting indictment, they got all this stuff going on, but they deposed her in video? The FBI hadn't even interviewed her in like however many months. It was like almost 2 years or 15 months or whatever. Didn't interview her. She had to initiate her own FBI interview. But this Kevin Patrick, he had himself all in a wad over her because she was telling the truth. She was telling the real estate consumers the truth of what was going on. So he, in my opinion, gets connected with the Ben DA and persecutes her over and over and over. Can't have these videos out there. The bottom line, we cannot have the public knowing what Kevin Patrick does in secret because, oh my God, his cover will be blown. Okay. Very passionate about all that story, but that's kind of what started this, and what was I talking about? Oh, how this started. Yes, well that's kind of how the whistleblower stuff started, and I will continue that story in the next video. Whistleblowermedia.com